Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, the Master League has returned for the first time in the Might and Mastery season. So this means for the very first time, I get to test out my own Kyurem Black. Now, you can get Kyurem Black by fusing a regular Kyurem with a Zekrom. It's a Dragon and Ice type Pokemon with the moveset of Shadow Claw, Fusion Bolt, and the new move Freeze Shock. This thing is unbelievably powerful as a safe swap. Even though I had some growing pains with learning damage ranges and stuff with the Mon, you can feel the power of this Pokemon in these battles. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we're off to a great start in game number 1, leading Zacian into Kyogre. This is a dominant matchup for the Zacian. Kyogre is going to fire off its charge attack, and I'm more than happy to commit a shield. Surf would of course do quite a bit of damage, and considering I'm about to lower my defense, I definitely need to make sure that I have health remaining. So now I'm going to farm up until one shy of the back-to-back. And basically no matter what my opponent does here, I'm switching into Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black up a shield basically has no counters in the Master League. It can just beat everything. Like here, they send in Dialga. I go for the Freeze Shock. It absolutely deletes the poor Dialga. Dialga is going to be firing off an Iron Head, but since I have the shield to hide behind, I can save the Kyurem Black, make a Fusion Bolt versus the Primarina. Kyogre, Primarina, Dialga is a pretty classic line, and it just got absolutely dismantled by Kyurem Black. Oh my goodness. In comes Kyogre. Kyogre, I mean, they can one-hit KO the Rhyperior, that's fine. I didn't need Rhyperior to win this game. I have the energy loaded on Zacian. Wild Charge knocks out Kyogre, and we take a Game 1 win. Moving into game number 2, bit of an uncomfortable lead Zacian into Rhyperior. I would always rather be the Rhyperior in this particular matchup because Rhyperior can always tank a close combat. As Zacian, I'm going to no shield here as they go for the Rock Wrecker and then go for the close combat. And whether they shield or not, I am going to have to pivot out of here. So close combat is going to be shielded. I'm going to pivot into my own Rhyperior. My opponent chooses actually to stay in this matchup, which works out pretty okay for me. They're going to go for the Rock Wrecker. That does more damage than a Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe will not quite knock out from here. So what I'm going to do is fire off the Rock Wrecker. Rock Wrecker is going to pick up the KO. And I'm fully expecting to see some manner of Kyurem. There it is. Opponent going to switch out and make a catch onto Necrozma. But they have now given me the ability to just get an insurmountable energy lead on my Kyurem Black. Master League, this rotation is basically whoever has the energy advantage on their Kyurem is probably going to win the game, whether you're running Kyurem White or Kyurem Black. They're on Iron Head, so I'm going to farm up, switch into the Zacian as they make Iron Head number 2. And I'm so far ahead on energy now in the Kyurem Black mirror that my only lose con is baiting. So I just get to full send the Freeze Shock. Freeze Shock is an incredibly powerful move. That's going to rock the Kyurem Black. Kyurem going to make one final charge attack, but I am very comfortable with shielding up here as they go for the Freeze Shock, and we're able to take the win. Zacian against Ho-Oh in the next battle. This is a pretty solid matchup for the Zacian. I will eventually look to pivot out though. So I'm going to be staying in here to start, firing off the Wild Charge, and my goal here is I do want to do 2 quick attacks and then try and catch onto the Rhyperior. So I switch into the Rhyperior, catching the Sacred Fire and getting a sneak as well. Sacred Fire, of course, going to be resisted. They do get an attack drop. So now this Breaking Swipe does not do as much damage as it typically would. I'm throwing this to try and deny the Brave Bird, but because of the debuff, they survive on 1 HP. And that means I should not have thrown that energy. Debuff Brave Bird is going to land. My Rhyperior now pretty low. Ho-Oh out of the way, but they still have yet to reveal their Kyurem. And they actually don't. Instead, they're going to bring in Zacian. I'm going to farm up, switch into my own Zacian, preserving a Rock Wrecker and catching a move. So this now puts me in a pretty nice spot, catching the close combat. I'm going to go for the CMP tie here, and my opponent catches right back. Every good catch deserves another. They catch the Wild Charge onto the Kyurem, but considering I have a Rock Wrecker banked and I'm still healthy enough, even with -2 defense, to make a close combat, I should just be in a winning position now. I'm going to be waiting down the timer here a little bit before I send in the Kyurem, and now I can switch into Rhyperior, and this is a win-win play. Either I catch, or if I don't catch, then I can just click my Rock Wrecker and win the game. So either way, Switching there is basically just a guaranteed win condition, and now they are rapidly approaching the around 30% health range at which a Fusion Bolt will KO even when resisted. So I am going to be using a shield myself, going for the Fusion Bolt, and Fusion Bolt will be able to deliver the knockout here. All that's going to be left is their Zacian. Zacian farming up a ton of energy. They should now be at the back-to-back moves. But this is very okay for me because Kyurem Black wins CMP over all of the meta Pokemon in the Master League that aren't named other Kyurem Blacks or Kyurem Whites. So we just CMP tie after they've debuffed their defense and take a comfortable win. Zacian versus Rhyperior again. This time I am going to try and play it out slightly differently. Before I was just taking the Rock Wrecker. This time I'm going to go for a close combat and then try and go for a catch. So close combat is going to connect. I switch into Rhyperior. Great patience from my opponent. Out comes Kyurem White. And this is quite terrifying. I am going to be going for a bait here with the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe into the Kyurem White. No debuff comes through. My opponent is going to fire off a Fusion Flare to prevent me from making it to a Rock Wrecker. In comes the Zacian. I will be able to pace here, but I make a misplay. I overfarm, thinking that it's more valuable to go down a shield in exchange for exiting with a move. But I think throwing instantly there would have actually been a bit better for me, because shield advantage Kyurem is outrageous. And my opponent has a ton of energy on their Rhyperior. So when they bring in their Duskmane and I pivot out into my Kyurem, now I just don't have a path forward in this game. Because my opponent has the ability to just go straight for the Sunsteel Strike to force the shield, and then when I shield, they can go for a ruthless combo play with the Rock Wrecker, and that's gonna pick up the one-hit KO. So I tried to lead with the move to try and negate Rhyperior's energy, but it just was not going to be enough. Zacian versus Zacian in the next match. My opponent does also have the best buddy badge, but theirs is not equipped. You can tell by the combat power. Theirs is 4329, mine is 4381. I am going to fire off my charge attack here on 11 before they get the double up, switch into Rhyperior, and catch what should hopefully be a wild charge. My opponent, they're actually on Play Rough, and now they're going to go for a mirror. I did get the sneak as I caught, so I am able to outpace here. So I'm going to fire off the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe, 50-50 chance, does get the debuff. I make Breaking Swipe number 2, but I lose the coin flip. So unfortunately, no second Breaking Swipe for me. My opponent is actually on Surf. I love running Surf on Rhyperior. I did decide to TM it off, but I do really enjoy that here. I went for 2 and the move. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would go for 3, but I wanted to try and cover for a potential one-turn bring-in. In the back, they have Duskmane, and this game is over. Kyurem Black is about to sweep. Kyurem Black shielding up as they go for the wild charge. They're not getting to a second move, and I just have way too much energy. Kyurem Black gets the launch Fusion Bolt after Fusion Bolt after Fusion Bolt. This thing does not have fast move pressure, but it has insane speed. They're going to go for the Sunsteel Strike there, hoping for a potential bait call, but there's no bait seen here. Instead, we're just going to see Fusion Bolt after Fusion Bolt, and I've since learned Fusion Bolt does 45% here, so it will be enough to KO Duskmane, and we're able to take the win. Zacian versus a Shadow Rhyperior, actually the Shadow Hundo Rhyperior. So I'm going to play it the way that I did last game, where I'm going to try and go for a catch. My last opponent was extremely patient and did not let the catch happen. This one does let the catch happen, and that's very, very nice for me. My opponent did go for a Breaking Swipe bait, and now they're going to send out Kyurem White. Kyurem White farming up a ton of energy. These Ice Fangs are shredding, and I'm going to go for the Breaking Swipe bait. That's going to get the shield. I can't make the Rock Wrecker, but I can make another Breaking Swipe. So I get to go for Breaking Swipe number 2. That's going to connect. I do see the attack drop on the second one, and now I can send in this Zacian. They're going to have to full send here. If they go for a -1 Fusion Flare, it will not knock out. I do survive. I get the close combat, but unfortunately, I do lose the CMP tie. Now, this is all going to be up to Kyurem Black. Opponent going to pivot back into the Shadow Rhyperior, going for a Breaking Swipe. 50-50 chance. This game gets a lot harder. Breaking Swipe does get the debuff. Very unfortunate. I'm farming up as much as I can. CMP tying here and firing off the Free Shock. Free Shock is going to pick up the knockout. Let's see what the opponent is going to have in the back. I am at -1. That's something I have to keep in mind. It's a Zacian, and this should be a winnable game. Zacian just going to go for a close combat right off the bat here. They're going to fire off. Oh, they actually go for a wild charge and a catch onto the Kyurem. This is honestly not bad because this will slightly help me get the farm down, and I can still make 2 fusion bolts, which will be enough to win the game. But this is where not knowing damage values is a huge error, because a freeze shock does huge damage, but it doesn't KO. All I had to do was double fusion bolt. It does about 15% more, and that was a very clean win. But unfortunately, unfamiliarity with the Pokemon cost me to win. Zacian versus Meloetta in the next match. Meloetta got heavily buffed. Psyshock buff, Dazzling Gleam buff. Here, I try and throw at a weird time to avoid a CMP, and I end up CMPing anyway. That is unfortunate. No ability to switch out, so I'm just going to let the Zacian go. It's a Dazzling Gleam. That does significant damage. There's a switch and a catch onto Rhyperior, catching the Psyshock and getting a 1 Mud Slap head start. Opponent now going to send out Palkia. I get to the Breaking Swipe. Well, I farm up to the Rock Wrecker to try and pressure a shield, because the Rock Wrecker does a ton of damage, and I'm actually able to grab a shield from my opponent. I really don't want Kyurem Black to see Palkia, or if I do, I probably want the Palkia to be lower. So I am going to farm up and then fire off this Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe not going to be enough to knock out here. Switch Clock's up. The switch into Zacian is going to force my opponent's hand. This forces out their energy, so now they're not able to keep any residual. I can send in Kyurem, and now we've got the battle of Kyurem Blacks. I am up 1 turn, so as long as I throw first, which I do, they're always going to be 1 full Shadow Claw behind, and I get a successful bait, and that should just slam the door on any win con for my opponent now, more or less. I will be able to overfarm slightly here, going for the Freeze Shock. Freeze Shock, it is neutral, but we know this is an incredibly powerful move. Freeze Shock KOs. Their Meloetta, I believe, is Energy Dry, which means they're 5 off the move. I should have a guaranteed win condition by throwing 5 and switching, because if they try and predict a catch and switch themselves, then I can farm down, exit with a Breaking Swipe, and I have a move loaded, and we know Kyurem Black is not going to lose CMP to anything else other than a Kyurem among the meta Master League Pokemon, that is, so we can bring back in the Kyurem, KO with the Fusion Bolt on a CMP tied to their Dazzling Gleam. Zacian into Kyogre. We've seen this lead before. Last time it was Dialga plus a Charmer in the back, and if that's the case, then we are in a terrific position. I'm farming up. I'm going to strike first with a Wild Charge, looking to put some pressure onto my opponent. They actually decide to let that go. They're going to throw on Alignment, so that does give me a quick attack for free. That is quite nice. Opponent now going to send in Togekiss. Togekiss farming up, and I am going to be firing off the back-to-back Wild Charges. Wild Charge number 1 is going to be shielded, going for Wild Charge number 2, putting a ton of pressure on Togekiss, and they only have 5 charms. That's incredibly important, because it's going to be a CMP tie or a Sphere to the Rock Wrecker. This is only 9 charms. This is not enough energy for an Aura Sphere. It's only an Ancient Power, but they get a boost. Oh no, are you kidding me? They get the boost. Oh, that is brutal. Rock Wrecker picks up the KO. They can even bring back in the Kyogre, that's fine. I know that Kyurem Black in the 1-0 beats everything. Here, unfortunately, my opponent does get 1 turn bring in. I think it may have been a simul KO, and they have Dialga in the back. But even if I lost this energy on Rhyperior, this is still just a winning endgame for Kyurem Black, because Kyurem Black has a shield for the Iron Head, and the Shadow Claws plus the Freeze Shock would very comfortably KO the Dialga. So either way, basically the goal with Kyurem Black is get it into the 1-0 shield, and you're always going to win. Ooh, this is a massive core breaker, Keldeo. Keldeo got a huge buff with the rework to Aqua Jet. Now, Keldeo, unfortunately, you need Rare Candy XL for, which I do have a lot of Rare Candy XL, but if I remember correctly, my Keldeo is pretty terrible. I'm looking at it now. Okay, my Keldeo is a 15, 11, 14. Actually, that's not as bad as I remembered, surprisingly. Now, they're going to fire off a Sacred Sword. That does pretty significant damage. Out comes Meloetta, and I make a huge mistake. I wasn't expecting him to throw instantly. I should have just clicked Freeze Shock there. I could have locked in huge damage. I wouldn't have had to go down a shield. So, man, the Keldeo threw me off my game, and I am playing poorly. His Freeze Shock does huge damage, but now I'm down a shield, which is a big problem when Keldeo has access to Aqua Jet. I can bring in Rhyperior, go for a huge farm, and if I still had a shield, I would genuinely be in a pretty solid spot against the Keldeo, but I do not, and that's going to be a problem. I'm going for the Rock Wrecker. It's resistant, but it does do more damage. My opponent rapidly approaching Aqua Jet. I try for a catch. It's unsuccessful. Tapu Lele in the back. Now, Tapu Lele does get a bit of a buff with Psyshock, but considering Lele actually loses to both Kyurems in all evens, I don't think Lele is going to be as good this season as it was in previous seasons, because obviously it does have slightly better pacing. I do get one turn here, but realistically, unfortunately for me, the game was lost when I didn't CMP tie the free shock with the Psyshock. Had I done that, I would have been in a pretty solid position. Hopping to the final match, playing a trainer that I've already played once today, Caspian Pike. Now, the first time we played, I tried for a catch onto my Rhyperior. I failed it, and Kyurem White kind of ran away with the game. So I know his team, he knows mine. I'm going to wait the turn to try and let the Mud Slap register, but unfortunately, I end up waiting a bit too long, and I lose my second close combat. Now, that's not a game issue, that's just my fault. This is a game issue right here. I bring in the Rhyperior, my Mud Slap doesn't sneak, they land the Rock Wrecker. I'm going to switch into Kyurem and get a small energy head start because I know his backline from playing him earlier. He's familiar with my team, I'm familiar with his. He has Kyurem White and Necrozma Duskmane in the back. And now, as he brings out Kyurem White, I'm going to need baits if I want a chance in this game. So I successfully Fusion Bolt bait once, I Fusion Bolt bait again, and this allows me to get to a free shock on 1 HP. He's forced to switch out and catch onto the Necrozma, but now that his Kyurem White has left the field, I can just shield once, Mud Slap down with Rhyperior, Rock Wrecker for the win, so my opponent is going to resign the match. All in all, I think the Kyurem Black is an unbelievably good pick for the Open Master League. To me, the Kyurems are so strong that basically team building for the Master League, I would always start with having one of the two Kyurems on your team. Can you have success without them? Yes, but they are just so outrageously strong that I would recommend basically any team or anytime you're playing, kind of assume your opponent's going to have a Kyurem somewhere. If it's not on the lead, plan for it to be in the back, because these Pokemon are so strong that they should be on every team. As I mentioned, I did also build Kyurem White, so at some point, maybe for a Thursday upload potentially, or a Friday upload, I will be trying out Kyurem White as well, and I have high hopes because a few of the losses that I had today were against Kyurem Whites. That thing's fast move pressure is absolutely unreal. So far, I am enjoying this edition of the Master League. There's definitely some learning required, like I'm not quite familiar with the damage ranges and the counts just yet. But as I get more comfortable with them, I'm confident that this is going to be one of the more fun editions of Master League that we've had so far. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.